Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. Not gonna lie, this video is being done a day after I made the card. So, last night I made the card and I was not in any fit state to come on camera. No. Hay fever was bad. I was looking bedraggled after a day of work and having made quite a few things. Just to give you a little bit of context, in addition to all the Christmas and July stuff I've got going on, I've also got some design team work going on. So this room is just total chaos at the moment, and I worked quite hard, made about 4 or 5 projects yesterday, including this card. I've already put the card away. Just so you know, currently the little basket on the very top of the thing, that's where all my Christmas and July cards are going. So it's already gone up there. I'm not going to go and get it because you don't need to see the bottom half of me because I'm in pyjama bottoms with my work top. It's hot, that's all I'm saying. Today, the day I'm filming this, it's very humid. So, I'm feeling a bit... Anyway, I made the card last night. So, our theme, I have still got the piece of paper and the folder out. Our theme is Poinsettia Perfection for today, which is day 10. And... poinsettia, to me, first thing that came to mind, will be of no surprise to anyone who follows me on my blog or has seen videos on here before. I think I've used these dies quite a few times. I am totally obsessed with them, and it's the Christmas bouquet dies from Alex Siberia. I absolutely love them. So I decided what I would do though was to challenge myself and just do a random colour scheme using the colour cubes. So I did the usual little random generator. There'll be a video that it starts off when I stop blathering, and that picked me out card 215, which is this one. So you've got some browns, a lovely bright red, it's called alizarin crimson, a grey, like a very pale grey, ghost white, which I sort of interpreted with a bit of silver, mint and Castleton green, and the brown is kind of like a burgundy brown. So yeah, that was my card that I went with. Used the Alex Siberia dies and I got crafty, and I really like the card that I made, but it was too late to make photographs of the card last night, and also, as I say, I looked like a bedraggled mess, so I wasn't going to come on camera. I wasn't going to give you all that to look at. So before I get cracking, quick one, subscribe if you want to see more videos, hit the notification bell so that you know when the next video is up. Obviously during July, that's nice and easy, you know it'll be tomorrow. But the rest of the year I don't post every day because this is an insane amount of work. Yeah, I hope you like this video. I hope you're not bored of seeing these dies because I have used them a lot of times, but I just love them. I just think it's beautiful. I just think it's gorgeous. So leave me a comment below what you think of the card that I made. And now over to past Catherine creating future Catherine voiceovering. Whoa, we're in some kind of matrix thing going on. Anyway, off we go. So the card numbers I selected were the ones that were in the Christmas section of box number 1. And that's why I came up with 215. So it was a Christmas themed colour scheme. And I started by doing a lot of die cutting. All of my die cutting was in white. And then I'm going to add the colour later using my alcohol markers. So I decided, do you know what? It's been a while. Probably, I've maybe only done 2 cards where I've used the original layout, like the one that's on that picture to the left. Of the placement of the dies. I usually just cut these and then just, pop them together in a cluster however I fancy. But I decided, no, I really wanted to kind of do them as per the diagram. But what I didn't do was cut the kind of the impression part that helps you to align them. So that does require, therefore, a little bit more fiddling. It's fine, it's not difficult, but it's just a little bit more fiddling if you've not got the alignment. Absolutely not necessary. You could absolutely put these together however you fancy, and I think they work well in all varieties. I am absolutely not sponsored by Alex Siberia to tell you any of this, but I do love the Alex Siberia floral dies and now own quite a few of the sets. I don't own all of them, but I own quite a few. Potentially might buy more of them, but you know, this is my favourite of the Christmas ones. I just love it. So there's a lot of die cutting of white, and I'm going through various bits of card. I was trying not to cut into another piece, but I ended up having to because I realised actually this full arrangement takes up quite a few of them, and some of them you need to cut 3 times, some of them you only need to cut twice. And I think there's just a couple, maybe just the centre of the flowers, that you need to only cut the once. But yeah, so you do have to kind of like count it up, and you'll have seen various points I might have been pointing at the picture, and that was me counting how many times do I need this thing. Now I always now use these little Hey Little Magpie trays to collect in my die cuts for things like this. It just makes it easy to keep things together as I'm going along. So you'll see I'm just plonking them all into that little tray, trying to tidy up a little bit as I go along. I say that, I don't think I've been very successful. When I look at my desk today, this is the day after, as I've already said, it's a big mess. But that's because there is about 3,000 things going on in my craft room at the moment and working full time. So it's all a bit crazy in this house at the moment, but never mind. It's fine. It's all good fun, isn't it? Now, I already had one die cut of this little berry thing already done, already coloured from another project that I'd done. And I thought, well, let's just make a second one of those. So I know that those little berries are not part of the colour scheme of the card. They still sort of work and they're fairly neutral. I did add a little bit more of a blue to the green off the stem though, because I felt like I needed it to be slightly more tealy coloured. So I added that to the one that was already done, as well as then creating the other one so it matched. Now, I've used alcohol markers on all of these, and I have kept it really simple. I've done no shading. I've literally just chosen different colours and done fairly standard colouring to the flowers. This is, sorry. The leaves, I had a little bit, I think. I'm now trying to remember. Obviously, I have slept since last night. I can't remember. No, I think even the leaves, I kept them as solid. I didn't go for shading. I think that those original ones with the berries, I did just to add in the little bit of blue, but without disturbing what might be the original colour of the berries. So yeah, I kept them fairly flat, and I did mix up my brands because I did add in both the Stampin' Blend markers and the Pro markers to do my colouring. Now, on these ones, these sort of like grey, larger berries, they sort of remind me of like little fluffy pods. I don't know what flower or berry they're meant to be, but they reminded me of that. I started getting like red on my fingers going onto them. So I decided that I might do something different with those, and you'll see on the end card, I do end up going over those. So at this point they were a very light grey, I think it was Cool Grey 2 or something, but I do end up changing that. The stems I went with the brown, and I also added that brown to a couple of the centres of flowers. But otherwise I kind of kept everything red, and you'll see something else goes quite brown in a little bit. So just finishing off these last few. The greens, I used a range of different greens. I did have to go with a slightly more sort of like aqua green, this one. It's sort of like almost a bit like eucalyptus. That's what I sort of went with for this one. Not quite in keeping. I haven't got anything that's as very dark as the original green that's on the card, but I think that some of those holly leaves probably get closer to that. I often find when I'm doing these colour card ones, I end up with paler colours. I think I just don't do vibrant in quite the same way. More when I'm adding the colours to cardstock rather than using cardstock to die cut, for example. Okay, here we go. This is me doing something slightly different with those pod type berries. I decided to coat them in Versamark. I did it by just pressing them into the Versamark rather than really covering them well. And then I'm adding silver embossing powder. This, because I've not covered them well with the Versamark, it kind of gives it a mottled look. You'll see, hopefully on the close-ups, I don't know that you'll see on the video necessarily, but on the close-ups at the end of the video, you'll see what I mean. I really like this finish. I mean, it's a very imperfect looking finish, to be perfectly honest. It's not great. Was it what I intended in the first place? No. But it works, and I really like it. It sort of makes them look like they're a bit bobbly and a bit maybe even furry. So that's what I ended up doing with those. So they don't stay quite as light as the grey that's on the colour cube, but I think they still work as being a grey and a light grey when they are a silver. So this is me working out a placement, which order do I need to sort of stick things down in, and doing myself a little bit of a practice session without actually gluing things down, and just working out whether I'm happy, whether I'm going to stick with using the original. I'm using the photograph or the illustration on the instructions to work it out. I think I'm fairly happy with it, so I decide I'm going to go ahead, but I do decide I want more brown. And that's maybe when this goes a little bit weird. I do really like it against the white, but yeah, it's me tapping going, no, I really want that burgundy brown. And then I go mad. So I'm using my early espresso ink pad, which is not very juicy at all, to go over it. And then I'm using vintage photo to go over it again. And then I'm adding my blending tool to add more vintage photo. And then I'm going to do a little spritz of water and then dry it with my heat tool. Is this burgundy? No, it is not. Would there have been better shades to use? Like maybe aged mahogany might have worked. I don't know. Yeah, probably. But you know what? I quite like the final card. It is not what I would have ever chosen to do without the colour scheme being there. I just felt when I put it all on the white, it just didn't have enough of that brown. Just those couple of stems and the centre of the flowers were just not going to be enough. This gives it a very different look. Do I like it? Yeah, I do. But again, it's just not my go-to, would have been to do this. So I think that's where the colour cubes come in. They really do push you to expand your boundaries and what you would normally do. Now, I will admit, without the extra template, it is a little bit tricky sometimes to work out where do things go. I don't always get it perfectly right first time, but I managed to put this panel together. And again, I can't get over how much I love this set of dies. I just think they're great. And when I say I don't always get it right, this is an example. I did not get that right. I have not got it at the right angle at all, so I had to take it off and put it back on again. Quite forgiving though, because there's so many layers. Nobody will notice there was a bit of smudge of glue, basically. The one piece I struggle a little bit with most is this one with the little pom-poms. I'm going to call them now. I don't know whether they're pom-pom berries, fluffy things, whatever they are. Only that you could adhere them in a different way at slightly different angles. And I thought, no, that's not how it works. So I put 2 of them down straight onto the background. Then I added one to the one that wasn't shaped. I'm not describing this very well. So the background being shaped, some of them stick out of the background. I added those ones to it, but the one that isn't and just overlaps another piece, I added to the stem and then adhered it. I'm hoping that makes sense from what you just saw me do. Okay, final stages of just getting the floral elements in now. We've got all of the leaves, the foliage elements, and now we're going to add in the flowers. All the flowers, both different sizes, have got the centre parts that cut out. So for the 2 larger flowers, I went with a yellowy colour for the centre because they are kind of meant to be poinsettia. And the smaller ones, I just went with the brown insert and they are a darker colour of red. The poinsettias I coloured with 2 different shades. So one of them was the light and one of them was the dark. And that was from the Stampin' Blends ones. And again, when you're kind of layering on top of at this point, you're not always going to get your placement perfectly aligned with how the picture looks. But it's so forgiving, it's absolutely fine. And that is probably your main element of the card that I actually made. I decided to use a 6x6 card blank, but I cut it down and made it just a slightly odd shaped card. I'll probably put this in a 5x7 envelope if I'm honest. I then just adhered it flat onto that card blank. Unusually, I did not do the inside of the card particularly. I mean, I do add something, but I didn't use any die cuts because I didn't think about it at the beginning. I hadn't got any die cuts left. At this point, I decided to go with my sentiment, and I decided weirdly to go with grey, which I know might seem a bit weird, but I will admit it was quite late at night by this point. I was tired and I was probably not making the best decisions. So, yeah. So, for example, cut that banner far too wide. I ended up cutting a much smaller banner and sensibly using the punch rather than trying to hand cut it. I am happy with that as a final thing, but I think creatively, would I have chosen something different if I had not been so tired? Yeah, probably. I think this covers a little bit too much of that beautiful floral arrangement, but it was too late and I was going with it regardless. I wanted it to stand up a little bit, but I didn't want it to be to the extent of foam adhesive, so I just added a couple of scraps of cardstock underneath, and that just gives it a little bit of dimension. And then I fiddle with this to make sure it's straight, and then put the acrylic block down to weight it down. And then for the inside, I added the same sentiment again, and that's it. That's all I did. I did add a little stamped sentiment. Sorry, I didn't just do that. I did add a little stamped sentiment. Again, it's not straight. Tired Catherine should learn to stop about half an hour before this point in the night and go to bed and not keep creating. But as I said earlier, a lot going on in my work, personal and crafting life at the moment. Anyway, I did add the little sentiment, added the stamped bit. Job's a good one. I love this card. I think it's great. I love it because I love those dies. I love the drama of it. What do you think? Should I have left it as a white background, or should I have done what I did, which is to add the brown? I'd love to know your opinion. Please leave me a comment below in relation to that and whether you liked it or not, and just how your day's going. That's all great too. Thank you so much for watching. As I said earlier, subscribe, notification bell, etc. Till next time, bye-bye.